cold day, and man, you have to want to be here today if you're here, because all the media and everything else is telling you stay at home, right? Don't move. You might get the virus. So thank you for being here, and I think we usually start with the invocation. So if you would, with me, bow, and we'll do that. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together and this beautiful place to meet, and we thank you for the foresight of others before us that prepared and formed organizations like we participate in here. And we ask you now to go with us, bless the speakers that we have today, and go with us throughout this meeting, and give us safe passage home. We ask all this in the name of Heavenly Father. Amen. So Jim's going to lead us in a pledge.
All please stand. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If Phyllis is ready, Phyllis, you have the minutes. Phyllis is going to read the minutes from our last normal meeting. That was we met here. Excuse me. January meeting.
Jim, I forgot my glasses. You're going to have to read it.
Okay.
I was turning off.
No, we're not going to use
Okay, here are the meetings from our January 19, 2002 meeting. The regular scheduled meeting of the Smoky Mountain Historical Society was held at Spear County Courthouse, Maryville, Tennessee. The meeting was held at the regular scheduled time and date of January 19, 2020 at 2 p.m. Board members were present. President Randall Pierce then called the meeting to order. Pierce then gave the invocation and led the Pledge of Allegiance. The minutes of the previous meeting were read by Phyllis Denton and approved as read. Jim Fowler gave a treasurer's report and membership reports. The treasurer's report, as of 12/31/2019, we had $87,313 in cash and other documents. That was an increase of $5,122 from the previous year. The membership report was then given. As of 12/31/2019, we had 343 dues paid members. That's an addition of 125 from the prior year. And then I provided copies of the reports for anyone that wanted to review them. Pearson then introduced Judge David Dugan, who is the Blount County Circuit Court Judge. He presented a program titled Alcoa, A Century in Words and Pictures, which he has written. He has also published an article about Maryville and Alcoa by Arcadia Publishing. He presented a very interesting program about Alcoa and the aluminum company history. He also told about the Centennial Tours, which would be available afterwards. After his very interesting presentation, Randall Pierce adjourned the meeting. Any questions?
I move that they be approved.
I second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis, now, or Jim, we'd now like to have you update us on the membership and treasurer's report.
As of February 28, 2020, we have $4,379 in cash, and then in our investment accounts we have $85,409 for a total of $89,789. This total is approaches the total we had in 2014, which was the best we had ever been able to do. We look forward to continuing to grow that fund, although we will have significant cash outlays this year on account of the implementation of our scholarship program. I have a copy of this if anyone wants to review it after or during the meeting. Okay, and I'll go ahead and give the membership report as well. Good news on membership as well. Membership continues to grow. As indicated, as of the end of 2019, we had a membership level that was almost as high as our peak membership level back in 2011. We had been drifting down over the course of time and bottomed out in the year 2017. The membership in 2011 was 392, and at the end of 2019 we had 391 members. So we were one share shy of meeting that peak of 2011. We were late in getting the fall and winter journal out. We didn't have Jim Schuler to help us through that process. There were some other production issues associated with that. The fall journal was not mailed until early January, and the winter journal was mailed about 2 weeks ago. Both of those journals had expiration dates printed on the cover with the member's name, and people who had not paid their dues had envelopes inserted for them to return their dues. We have received pretty good renewals, more coming in each day, but we are shy from our 2019 level at this point. Currently we have only 205, and 186 have not paid as compared with last year. Generally we have a lot of people that pay between now and Wilderness Wildlife Week. So we hope that we'll pick up those missing members in that period of time. Nothing to worry about yet, but if you run across a member that has not paid their dues, encourage them to do so. And again, this time of year, the numbers always go down, and what we report is the end of the year dues as new members come in and people renew. We had a good turnout, by the way, at the Roseglen Book Festival, and picked up 10 new members, which is the most members, according to my mom, who I think has been to every one of those festivals and attended. So that's the best new membership enrollment or re-enrollment we have had. We picked up several members that had been absent for more than 4 years at that. Any questions regarding the membership level?
Thank you, Jim. I'll have just a couple of announcements. One is we still have a vacancy on the board for directors from Blount County and Sevier County. If you or anyone you know would be willing to serve in one of those capacities, of course we do need you to be a resident of one of those two counties, then we certainly would welcome you coming forward and serving in that capacity. Our new bylaws do allow us to operate and make decisions and all without all of those being totally filled, but I think we all know that the better represented we are, the better the organization will be. So if you know someone that's at all willing to serve, please remind them and encourage them. Thank you for that. Also, the spring picnic this year was decided at our board of directors meeting a week or so ago that we would meet in Blount County. And we haven't been there for a while, and there's two choices still in consideration there. One being at the Sam Houston Schoolhouse. They have a totally enclosed facility if we wish to use it, so we wouldn't have to be concerned about the weather situation, which has been a problem in the past. We've canceled a couple of picnics my history of the organization due to weather, and that would mean we wouldn't have to worry about that. The second place would be Mount Lebanon Baptist Church has a new pavilion, and it's very nice, and but it is outdoors, so it would be subject to rain and wind or storms that would be inclement. So, but we can decide, and I think we can go outside at the Sam Houston School house and enjoy the grounds as well while we're there. So it's not something that just because we would be eating inside that we would be cooped up there and have to stay just in that location.
If there were a little talk about Sam Houston while we were there, that would be a nice combination.
Yes, the museum is open on Sunday, and so we could go into the museum, and they have probably a dozen publications related to the history of our county, Sam Houston in particular, and the Sam Houston Schoolhouse.
I've done
So-
historical reenacting.
Pardon me now?
I have done historical reenacting events at St. Houston.
Yes, and it's a very nice facility, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Very well, the grounds are very well kept, and all. And you can, if we run out of parking, you can park at the top of the hill, and so there's no chance of running out of places to park there. Okay, so next thing I'd like to do is go ahead and begin our programs today. Lou Bolton's going to give us a little presentation regarding preparation for the Christmas past celebration that we participated in, and probably, I can't count the years, but and we were confused on how many. Jim, did we ever figure out how many years it was?
Yes, but I forgot. It's a round number, so I believe this is going to be the 40th year coming up this year,
I did it in 1996, first time.
Okay.
when you were 12.
With,
Yeah. So that would be certainly 24 years right there. So that would, and it is a nice traditional celebration, and there's certainly a lot of people come through that park on any given day, and that day is Sunday is no different. Betty, yes.
I want to back up to the picnic in
Yes.
Blount County. The last one that I remember us having was at the park there behind the courthouse.
Okay.
And there was me and Jim's sister and two little, very elderly ladies from Knox County, and we were it. So I want to encourage everybody to show up wherever we have a picnic in Blount County this time.
Yes. You know, Smoky Mountain Historical Society represents 3 counties that border the park, and Sevier County has much of that border, and the organization is, I guess you could say, sort of headquartered here. It's our mailing address. It's our, and it has the most, I guess it still has the most members from Sevier County as well.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the reason that we have most of our meetings here is this is sort of central to halfway between Cocke County and Blount County. Yeah.
And we're asking the folks from Cocke County to drive a long way when we have it in Blount County, and vice versa. The same for the Blount County folks if we have it in Cocke County. But
Maybe
we're
we'll
going to move the picnic around. It's one of the things we think that would be good for the organization, and it would also be good for just those that don't get to either of those other counties very often to come visit and see what we have. All right, so Lou, with no further ado, if you're ready, well, we'll turn this over to you at this point.
Let me be the first to say, Merry Christmas! Isn't that a favorite season of ours? Merry Christmas. Well, that's the subject. The Sevier County Historical Society has been a part of the Festival of Christmas Past, which is held at the Sugarlands Visitor Center. And I think it started in 1976, if I'm remembering right. And so we have always been a part of that. In the beginning, there were some of the original residents of the park who were still around. So we had an easy program. But since that time, a lot of them have passed away. So it has been more difficult to come up with a program. I've been a part of it for the last 3 years. This past year, there she is, Jane back there. Smitey Muldoon spoke about Christmas traditions from the 1700s. And then Mary Phillips, who was going to be here today, but I don't see her yet, and I talked about Wiley Oakley family traditions around the Christmas time. So that was our program, and it turned out pretty good. But we'd like to do even more this year if possible. So what I'm asking for would be volunteers to work with me in trying to contact old-timers, to find out their Christmas traditions, to do it either by personal contact or going to the library and researching, reading books, but just scouting around and seeing what we can find in the way of Christmas traditions in the Smoky Mountains. So right after the meeting, if anybody is interested, I will ring my Christmas bells, and I have some pass-outs for you to give you a little bit of information, and we can start exploring this and see what we can come up with. But that's Christmas 2020, December, that the program will be. If you don't want to be on the stage, if you just want to be in the background doing research, that would be great. If you just want to make cookies, if we find some old timers that can go to their homes to take, that would be great. I have found a contact named Mary Porter, who is a part of the retired citizens of the Smokies. And I understand that she has a lot of contacts with some of the people who have lived in the Smokies way in the past. So I hope through her we will be able to find some good contacts. And if you know of any, also let me know. I appreciate it. Yes, Jim?
We're it.
You're it. Oh, we are it. Okay. Well, I want to hear from you then. Here we go.
Adam, can I make one more announcement?
Sure you can, come right up, Jim.
Okay. We mentioned Wilderness Wildlife Week a little while ago. That's an event that we have an opportunity to volunteer and recruit new members and recruit old members to come back. Phyllis Denton has graciously agreed to coordinate the schedule associated with that. But we're looking for volunteers. So anyone who wants to volunteer, please contact Phyllis. Phyllis's contact information is in our journal, or you can talk to her here today, and she will work with you to fit a schedule that meets your needs and ours. I don't recall the exact date. It's in early May, and it's a week. I believe it's Monday.
Ends on the 9th.
Ends on the 9th.
Well, the other day at the meeting, they said Monday through Friday, and I thought it was always Tuesday through Saturday. And I looked it up on the internet, it said Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday.
So it'd be,
And it looked like it might be
Yeah.
opening a little earlier than it had been, or maybe that's just when they want the participants in there.
Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. We've got a few days to put the schedule together. But spread the word. If you can't attend, then perhaps you know someone else that would be interested in providing 4 to 6 hours. Yes, April?
Could you explain what you're asking people to volunteer for, what you want them to do?
That's a good point. We have a table there every year where we basically sell memberships, sell books, and just talk to people that come by and visit. So you ask a question if someone comes by, keep the little kids from walking off with all the candy, if we have the candy, and answer questions. You don't really have to be that knowledgeable. You just have to be charming, and you're all charming, so that shouldn't be a problem for anybody.
At
Yes,
LeConte, it's at
Yeah,
the LeConte.
it's in Pigeon Forge at the LeConte Center, yeah. And free parking, and that's about all I know. I've shown up, I believe, for the last 3 years, and it's been an enjoyable time. If you like meeting people, now we're assuming that the world is going to come back to order between now and May, and that it won't be canceled. So that's of course always a risk, but hopefully things will get better between now then. So that's all I can, but thank you for the opportunity to give you the opportunity.
Thank you. So let's remember Wilderness Wildlife Week. And Lou, I have a question. I know of 3 individuals from Blount County, I think, that would gladly participate, but probably a short little videotape might be the way.
I think that's
Would that be
a
okay?
good possibility, yeah.
Okay. I'll pursue that, and I'll give you those names at the end of the program today. All right, so at this point, I think it's time for us to introduce our speaker. And it goes without saying that when the speaker's finished, we will have refreshments. And we have a table spread today that we can all be proud of. But today's speaker is Mr. Kenneth Cornett. And I think most of the people in the room know Kenneth already because of his active participation in so many historical events in Blount County, Sevier County, and just our general area. Kenneth is the Blount County historian at this time. He's also president of the Sam Houston Memorial Association, and he's director and former president of the Blount County Genealogical and Historical Society. Did I say that right, Kenneth? Okay. And Kenneth and his wife, Wilda could not be here today, live in the Nails Creek area of Blount County. And Kenneth, with no further ado or introduction, I think you are ready, and we're anxious to hear your program.
Thank you.
I present to you Kenneth Cornett.
Thanks much. You know, anytime you get up before a group, there's a natural tendency to be a little apprehensive because although I know what I want to convey to you, how you receive or perceive that information might be an entirely different matter. It reminds me of a third grade teacher. She was trying to get across to her students how harmful drinking alcohol could be. And knowing that a picture was worth 1,000 words, instead of doing a lecture, she decided to perform an experiment and show them just how harmful alcohol could be. So on the day of her presentation, she took 2 clear glasses, set them on the front of her desk. One she filled with regular tap water, the other one she filled from a 5th of whiskey. She reached her top drawer and out of a small box, pulled out 2 large earthworms. She held them up in front of the class, they were wiggling very much alive. She said, "Now students, I want you to observe." She dropped a worm in each glass. The worm in the alcohol set at the bottom, dead almost instantly. The little worm in the water was still wiggling very much alive. She asked the question, "Now students, what is this experiment proving to you?" There was a pretty sizable hesitance.
I know. Drink whiskey every day and you won't get worms. Is that it?
He's heard this before. Heard this before. Yeah, little Johnny said, "I know." And he said, "If you drink alcohol, you ain't gonna have worms." Always one, never cried.
Yeah.
I want to talk with you briefly about utterly blunt. Of course, we talk about udders, we're talking about cow's udders, and we're talking about milk. And when you talk about milk, I'm concerned with milk bottles. I collect milk bottles. It's got to be an interesting hobby as well as an expensive hobby anymore. The little Stoffel's Dairy, just to give you an idea, Stoffel's Dairy was both in Blount and Knox County. The half-gallon size, of course, makes it different because most are the quart size. What makes this unusual is the back, which has a war slogan: V for victory and M for milk. Keep them flying. Stoffel's Dairy normally is about a $25 bottle. This bottle with war slogan on it and half-gallon size Usually sells for about $125. So if you find something with horse, excuse me, with the war slogan, pick it up. It's quite collectible. Back in 2002, I think I had 4, maybe 5 milk bottles from Blount County. Larry Mintz, a friend of mine, we both had been collecting bottles for about 30 years. He had 5 or 6 also. So we decided we'd compile a list of all of the milk bottles from Blount County. That list evolved into a 2-year project, which resulted in Utterly Blunt, a listing of all the dairies in Blount County. And it's amazing how many folk are getting into this as a hobby now. Milk bottles are quite collectible, especially local ones. We discovered in our research that there was actually a total of 233 dairies that had operated in Blount County beginning in about 1889. Of these, 16 of them had their own personalized bottles with their names on it. Most, of course, had generic, but many of those generic bottles, they would have their personalized caps, little cardboard caps that sealed the milk. In the 50s, actually from the 30s through the 50s, non-commercial dairies was a big thing. Every community had their own farm, their own source of milk. And in Blount County, there's a total of 145 non-commercial dairies located throughout the county. Of these, 23 had milk routes, and these would probably be community-type routes. But the big thing back in the 50s was the 10-gallon galvanized containers. You'd fill it and set it out the road, the truck would come by and pick it up. Later, the galvanized trucks would pick it up. But what amazed me was the way that they put that in those, set them out the road, they stayed out there in the sun for 3 or 4 hours before they picked up. Took them to Greenback. Greenback, they put them on the train and shipped them into Knoxville. By the time they got to Knoxville, it's buttermilk. or should have been, anyway. But we had a total of 23 dairies that had routes throughout Blount County. Today, there's only 3 active dairies in Blount County. And so it's a dying industry. And of course, the reason being is those large productive groups out in the Midwest that have hundreds of cattle as opposed to a Jersey cow. And that was the other thing was the cream separators. Everybody would have a grown Jersey cow, the good butter fat. They'd run through the cream separators, and what was left was what we call Blue John. Well, the Blue John was fed to the pigs. Today, you and I pay good money for just skim milk. So that's the difference. The oldest dairy that we've been able to document in Blount County was operated by YWC Hannum. Hannum lost his leg during the Civil War, so he came back home. If you're familiar with where Midland Shopping Center is, that was his farm. And the present location of the Blount County Library is where his barn sat. The largest operation was by Bob or Robert McCampbell, the Broadacre Farms at Louisville. And they were located not only in Blount County, but also in Knox County. The earliest that we've been able to document was operated by the Brown brothers. They were located in the historical building there that has the Cades Cove Museum now, the Thompson Brown House. But they had a route in delivered milk by horse and buggy in East Maryville for a number of years. The dairy that I took forever to locate, you know, you have the milk bottles and you have the caps. And most of the caps would have the name and address of the individual. I kept finding caps with the name Limestone Dairy. And I searched for about 12 years before I finally found Limestone Dairy. And it made sense. If you go the old Rockford Highway out of Rockford, on the right, just as you get to the lake, there's fields there, and everywhere you look, there's outcrop of limestone. That was the location of Limestone Dairy. But it took me forever to locate it. Farmer's Dairy was the only one. Jake Farmer had a dairy in Townsend, and he supplied milk to the CC camps, the one in Cades Cove as well as the one at Tremont. The milk bottle that I don't have, and I only know of one that's been located in Blount County, is called Mammoth Spring. If you go down Montville Road to the intersection of Sandy Springs Road and look straight ahead, there's a little block building, and that is in front of Mammoth Spring. And that's where the city of Maryville got their city of water for years. But the Mammoth Spring milk bottle, if you find one, let me know. I've got a standing order of $100 for anyone to bring one forth. I'll tell you, they're going to be hard to find. Little River Creamery is well known too, because it was located there on Stock Creek just as you're leaving Blount County into Knox County. And what's interesting about that dairy is he tried in the 30s and 40s to get Blount County to run electricity out there. And they refused to do so because they said the population was too sparse to worth the cost. And so then his milk bottles, although the farmers, totally in Blount County, all have Little River Creamery, Knoxville. And he did that just to spite them because they wouldn't run electricity out to him. The Alco Aluminum Company had a large dairy operation up until about 1943. At that time, they decided that they needed the property to expand the aluminum company, so the Alcoa dairy was discontinued. The one thing that did the most to destroy the local farm production of milk was the state requirement that milk had to be pasteurized before it could be sold to the public. And most of the local farmers couldn't afford the equipment to pasteurize their milk, so they went out of business. The other thing that was always interesting is in early spring, you had to sit down at your meal and have a good slice of onion before you drank your milk. Because all the milk at that early spring, because the wild onions, it would taste like wild onion. The cream separators, Sugar Creek and Knoxville, as well as Little River Creamery, would always buy the butterfat milk. And of course, what was left is what we call Blue John. And the Blue John was never used by the producers. They would feed it to the pigs, but today you and I pay good money for it as, quote, skimmed milk. I was trying to look at my notes here so I wouldn't.
Ken, if you don't know what a cream separator looks like, there's one on the porch at Cracker Barrel.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Which Cracker Barrel?
Oh, the one, ours, in Blount County. Yeah.
Okay.
You know anything about a Taylor Dairy in Jeffries Holler in Blount County?
What?
Taylor Dairy in Jeffries Holler in Blount County. Do you know anything about that.
Sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Yeah, that would be Clifford Taylor. Yeah.
In relation to Doc Taylor, that was the traveling doctor.
Yeah, it's just right down from my house.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sound like you're gonna have a
Take
big
that old house,
issue.
the old road, or the big one on the main drag over there.
Taylor's.
It would have been right on the corner there at Prospect and Jeffrey's Hollow.
Well, I know where it is. That's
Yeah,
one I
it's
know.
where Fort McTeer,
Yeah.
that farm.
Okay.
That's Clifford
Yeah,
Taylor.
the big Taylor house up there.
Yeah, the big Taylor house, that's away from, that's on 411.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one I was referring to.
Okay, now, the little house over there where the Fort McTeer, where Ellis Grocery was or is, and there's a little white house that sits on the corner of Prospect Road and Jeffrey's Hollow. And the dairy was right across the road from that. And then the Fort McTeer was up on the hill from the dairy there.
Lynn and Beverly Sparkstones
I've got
lives in the
friend,
Taylor house.
he just died, but live in that little house you're talking about. Every time we go by there, he wants to rent it.
Oh,
Ken, don't you just hate it when your audience knows as much or more than you do?
they grew up in the community, so they know it well.
Okay, I apologize for spoiling your joke about the worms, but apparently these people here, they just pile on, okay?
No problem. I'm needing some help in locating a couple of dairies. We have found milk bottles, but we can't find any specifics. One was called Oak Grove Dairy, W.C. Pierman, phone 400 Maryville. Now, there's several Piermans in Loudoun County, but I don't know of any Piermans in Blount County at this time, so we've been unable to run this one down. But the fact that it was a Maryville address, we think it was possibly at the location of the old fairgrounds, but we don't know for sure. And the other one is Edgewood Dairy, E.G. Painter, proprietor, Maryville. So, Chance, if you know anything about either of those dairies, I'd appreciate hearing from you.
they had their own label on the
The
bottles.
bottles are embossed with the names on them, yeah. And
What was the last name I missed?
Pierman,
Pierman.
P-E.
Oak Grove and Edgewood and Pierman
Uh-huh.
are the three.
Well, actually, two. Oak Grove was by Pierman. I'm sorry, Edgewood Dairy. Edgewood Dairy was E.G. Painter, P-A-I-N-T-E-R. And Oak Grove was Pierman. But we have the bottles, but we can't find any information about the families. So, appreciate input on any of that. Any questions?
Would you share with us about where the bottles came from?
These over here?
Yes. Where they were made?
Of course, most of the bottles were made in Chattanooga. And they mass produced different ones. Several things makes this one collectible. The size to begin with, half-gallon size, wasn't that common. And then, of course, it's painted label, Stoffel's Dairy. But what makes it quite collectible is the back is the war slogan. M for milk, V for victory, keep them flying. This particular bottle goes for about $125. It's primarily because of this war slogan on the back.
Ken, where do you come across all these different bottles?
Garage sales, flea markets, individuals. Most of these came from individuals that knew that I collected. These are interesting. Can you see the tops
Yes.
of overflow design. Of course, the quart size was the most common size. Broadacre Farms was the largest operation in Blount County. It was located primarily in Louisville, and Louisville also was over in Knox County. But they moved into Maryville 1 year. They only had one run made. You can see this one has Louisville on the bottom. This one has Maryville on the bottom. This one is tenfold more expensive than this one because they only had one run of these made.
Turn the ball this way.
And then on the back side, of course, it has a baby being fed milk out of a bottle. This particular bottle, which is identical, except it has Louisville. This is about a $30 bottle. This one's $130 because it's Maryville.
Ken, about when were these dairies in operation, or the time frame that?
Mainly in the 30s and 40s. Some lasted on up through the 50s, but for the most part, 30s and 40s.
Okay, well, I'm a Sevier County resident, born in Sevier County, and fed Avondale milk that was delivered into Sevier County, and I think it was out in what, Powell and Knoxville,
I
is that?
think so, yeah.
Okay. And
It was a big operation in Sevier and Blount County both.
okay. And did these Blount County dairies, after they stopped selling milk, would they wholesale to Avondale, or what happened to those?
To Pitt had a
Pitt.
route. Pitt had a route in Blount County where they picked up the milk. I think this is a beautiful bottle. T.H. Brown's Dairy. This was located on Wilson Pike, phone number 609. And of course, it's embossed on both sides, which makes it very desirable. Green Valley was a small operation. And again, most of them had a way of trying to entice you with children and the use of milk. But Green Valley was, I can't think of the name of that road now, but it was East Maryville. Again, these usually you can pick them up in a garage sale or estate sales, but if you can get one for less than $50, grab one.
Hold up around in this direction, please.
We'll be looking for
Hold
some,
still.
aren't you?
Okay, turn it around.
Okay. And then of course, the most common
That's right. Lawson Drug Store was here. Some of them people left the little old Nicholson.
are plain glass with embossing, raised embossing. This one reads Fort Sanders, Louisville, Tennessee. And this one is Haddock's Dairy, Maryville, Tennessee. Again, quite collectible. Questions?
How did you become interested in the milk bottles and such? Were you a breastfed baby?
No.
By any chance?
I've been a collector of bottles and fruit jars
Ah,
basically all my life. And milk bottles, though, is just something I got into in about the last 5 or 6 years.
I have a small collection of milk bottles. One of them is from a dairy in Upper New York. My husband's using them to put all of his marbles in. He has this massive collection of marbles, so he took my milk bottles and filled them all up with marbles. Around the rock.
What were those two again that you said were the most common
Most common,
that you got in your hands?
yeah, this one's Haddock's Food.
What?
Haddock's,
Spell it.
Haddox. It was off Sevierville Road.
Turn it. It's still.
And the other one?
This was Fort Sanders, Louisville. The one that most folk want, and I think is the ugliest one, it just has no appeal at all, other than it has Alcoa. Of course, Alcoa went out of, their dairy discontinued in 1943. But the backside just has gray milk. Very plain. The top is different. I've been trying to find, they said this had an aluminum full top rather than regular can. And you can tell how different the top is on it.
Wasn't there a problem with milk from that dairy on account of the fluorides at some point in time?
There were several lawsuits filed against Alcoa because of the fluoride emission, and there were a number of trials outside the state. And Alcoa wound up paying, I think it's $63,000 to local farmers because of the judgment they got from supposedly the cows would lose their teeth and become deformed because of this fluoride that was being released. And I'm sure that secretly Alcoa discontinued releasing those emissions.
You know, those cows that used to be around the Alcoa plant, you know, they put those there to prove that that was a bunch of,
Yeah.
you know what,
Right.
that, you know, the people was trying to collect money that maybe it wasn't all that needed.
Other questions?
What was the usual mode of delivery? Did they sell them to stores, you buy them from stores, or were they delivered to homes
They
or
delivered them.
home?
Of course, they were available both places, but the big thing back then was that every community had a local delivery route.
And you'd leave your empty bottle out and they would replace it with a...
They say that there's coupons that we use. I've yet to find that. In fact,
The mailman coming and leaving milk inside of a galvanized box of some sort, and you would leave that in there.
Ken, you mentioned the 10-gallon milk can. Those used to be very collectible. Are they still collectible?
They still are, yeah. They still are.
And were all of those galvanized, or were there ever any non-galvanized cans?
All I know of are galvanized.
Okay. What does one of those cans sell for if it has a lid with it now?
Probably 40 to 60 bucks.
Those things were heavy. I used to have to help my grandparents milk. Both sets of grandparents milked. We helped them strain the milk, haul them on this little carrier, and then put a pulley system and pulled it up and put it in a cooler that was full of water that would stay cold. Until Lloyd Sis from the Pet Milk Company came and picked up the milk. He was my uncle.
The building's still there?
Grandpa's, actually, Dairies still there. I mean, the building's still there, barely.
My husband's family sold milk in big cans to Mayfield's Dairy.
My great aunt, I never did, never was.
I don't
even
know, would they have been one of the ones that you counted in your original total of how many were in Blount County?
Yes, I'm sure.
What was that number again? The total? 200 and,
33.
33.
Yeah.
Facilities, everybody had taken out in the village, or dumped them on.
Was more than one kind of milk offered, like buttermilk,
But not
cream,
remember.
or just milk.
Not too many
It's
years.
usually just milk. And then you got both because it's mixed.
So in other words, you could let it sit, the cream would rise to the top, and you skim that off and have good cream, okay? No chocolate, no.
Not even from Round Dairy, do they have chocolate
No.
milk?
Other questions? Hope this was informative.
I could watch Grandma Pope squirt a person clear across the barn with a calendar. When she'd milk out there, she'd see somebody, and she'd go, shoot him right in the face.
Thank you, Kenneth, for a very interesting program. It certainly is, you know, been a rewarding hobby to you, I know. And this kind of a study could be duplicated in each of our counties, couldn't it? And here we are, we probably all had families that worked in these dairies. Maybe they worked for a dairyman, maybe they were a dairyman, or they had some related occupation related to it. And they're almost all gone and forgotten today. So thank you for bringing a very interesting program to us. And so without any further ado, I would like to pretty much bring the meeting to a closure and say, let's have some refreshment. Thank you for coming today.